My first question is just state your name and where do you live, and tell me where you grew up.
My name is Dee Hall Goodwin, and I live in Norfolk, Virginia.
Mhm.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and in Castries, St. Lucia, so kind of between two places.
Now, I know Brooklyn has a huge botanical garden.
Mhm.
So, as a child, did your family ever go to that botanical
I
garden?
literally grew up across the street, as in get up, get dressed, go directly across. And I was a children's garden member, so I spent my entire childhood in the soil in that botanical garden, which has the oldest children's garden in the country, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know. I had visited that garden this summer, and it is 250 something acres,
Yes.
and that children's garden is
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away about all the things they had for kids to be able to touch and to
Yes.
grow their
Oh
own
yeah.
vegetables.
Yeah, I grew kohlrabi, which was like probably one of the most unusual vegetables. A lot of people don't know what it is,
Yeah,
but I remember that. I had radishes, carrots, everybody had their little rows, their little plots, and it was a really fantastic experience to have.
that is crazy. So we go from childhood, and then we're gonna go to this unique experience where you were having a wedding and you're looking for flowers. And tell me about your journey and becoming more of a flower farmer, and how your wedding became the story of now that you're this urban black farmer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I was planning my wedding, I was looking for locally grown flowers and I couldn't find what I was looking for. Of course, I'd been a gardener my entire life, and I thought to myself, well, I have garden space, I'm already growing stuff. Why should I not just go ahead and become a full-fledged flower farmer, as one does, like
Yeah,
most, normal people? That's the thought process. Like, I need wedding flowers, and so now,
just grow it.
new career. And so that was kind of the start of Mermaid City Flowers. I grew stuff. I went to market the first year. I started finding other local growers as the flower farming movement is growing again in the United States, and it kind of took off from there.
That's really crazy. You hear a lot of people try to do crafty things for their weddings, and you said, actually, I'm just gonna do the thing but
Yeah,
own it at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
And tell me about your formal training in horticulture, because you say you've been growing flowers your life. We talked about New York Botanic Garden, but tell me about, did you go to school, or was it just a gift of growing plants from your life experiences? And that kind of, is there any like family members that really helped kind of sort of inspire you for this path?
Yeah, so I did not go to school for horticulture, but my grandmother, who is a teacher, was a lay horticulturalist. And so I grew up seeing her actually have a floral business on the side. So people would come to our home having ordered, arrangements from her for weddings or events. So I actually had somebody who was like a part-time farmer florist in my life. And in addition to the botanical garden in Brooklyn, I had a neighbor and good family friend who I still call my gardening fairy godmother, because she still to this day sends me bulbs and seeds and plants of all sorts. She created a community garden right next to our apartment building in what had been a parking lot. And so all the kids in the neighborhood all had their own little gardening space with the opportunity to grow their own flowers. And I remember I had daffodils, I had forsythia bushes, I have pictures of little me with all the stuff that I planted over the years. And she's kind of continued to do the same thing. And, she's still a big part of my life. And we talk plants all the time, probably once a week.
That's amazing. I always find that there's always one person that impacts our stories
For
in one way or the
sure.
other, or a life experience. And so having that kind of grandmother who, in our families is usually mother,
Yes.
she kind of runs everything. And
Yes.
we spend summers with them, and
Yep.
they're intertwined in our DNA. I know mine is. She was a farmer, so I understand that story and how it impacts the things you do today. And so let's go back to you being a flower shop owner and, of course, urban black farmer. So Mermaid City Flowers, which amazing concept. I don't need to buy flowers. I can just grow them. Would you share more about that? So how an idea of community land sourcing played a role in growing the business. Tell me more about what that is and how you can give you a little more knowledge about that.
So I started off growing in my own front yard. That was where I had the majority of space. I had a large corner lot. And when you are outside growing things in your front yard, it really gives you an opportunity to connect. Front yards and porches, right, are where people connect with one another versus backyards. So, curious neighbors walking by like, hey, what are you doing? Well, I've started a business there. Well, I have this unused garden space or unused grass if you'd like to utilize this space. And it kind of grew from there. And it was really important to me to work in the place where I live. Since I'm from New York, I was pretty familiar already with seeing, urban growing techniques. And so it didn't seem unusual to me that, yeah, of course I'm going to grow, flowers in my front yard. And of course, if my neighbor has space to offer, I'm going to take them up on it. And it kind of continued in that vein. And now I have like a small waiting list of plots. But it's been really incredible. People really enjoy seeing flowers, and they don't have to do anything. I just show up, There's no grass for them to cut anymore, and they get to experience the beauty of that. I grow lots of native plants too. That was really important to me. So kind of when I started down this path, I decided to do a lot of research because it was important, since Norfolk is, kind of ground zero for climate change, that I also grew things that were environmentally sound. And so I made choices and selected for nativars, which is like native cultivars that do really well in this area. And so the business became a teaching tool as well.
And, I, as someone who works a lot with community organizations, the one thing that we know is you have to be seen in order to be heard, even in spaces that you might feel uncomfortable. And so talk about that as far as, community land sourcing. How do you make yourself seen? Because people not everyone's in your neighborhood. So how do you spread that message?
Yes.
Is it, do you go on TV? Like, are you at the market?
There's a lot of word of mouth now. So I did farmers markets, and I have a design studio that I share with other people. But Norfolk, like other places, I say it's large, but it can feel like a small town. So the bulk of it, I think the first year I put out a call like, hey, I'm looking for additional growing space. And people who either had space or knew people that they thought might have space and be interested in, donating that space. They connected me with people, and it kind of went from there.
And it's amazing, Norfolk and Hampton Roads is a melting pot of different cultures. So you talk about how amazing you've got this African-American woman asking people of all different races, can I have some of your land?
Yes.
And I feel like there was a joy in that people really loved that. Here's a woman looking to kind of beautify this area, but also like sell it back in like beautiful artistic ways as well.
Right.
And I feel like that's just a beautiful story of how we can continue to connect people no matter what race or gender.
Yeah, for sure. It has been one of the funniest things. I went back, I've moved from my original house since, but recently a package was delivered there, and I had a chance to go and talk to the new owner, and she was telling me, she's like, I know exactly who you are, because people still walk by and they say, this used to be Dee's house, and she had all these plants here, and there was all this stuff, and she was actually like, if you're actually ever interested in like having that growing space back or kind of connecting about plants, I'm interested. Everybody has memories associated with plants, right? Whether it's, a smell we remember maybe from our mom or grandmother's kitchen, from them getting something right out the back door, to, the smell of something another loved one, brought for us, our favorite flower, whatever it is. I think all people have floral and plant memories, and that's one of the biggest connectors. Often at market, people walk by and they come back and they're like, what's that smell? I know that smell. And, it starts a conversation. It's something we are all intimately connected to, whether we realize it or not.
And I think that's right on the nose, and it's so beautiful. My connection, my dad can't grow anything, but he'll still try. But my grandma was a rose. She loved roses. And so I remember always going back to her house in Baltimore. It's just a small little plot, and she had her rose bushes. And till this day, every time I see a rose, it reminds me of
Same
her.
thing. My grandmother was a big rose and orchid girl. She actually imported her roses from the UK. They would come over on a boat, and so roses and orchids are the two flowers I probably associate most with her and with her garden. So definitely, you can ask anybody. You can go up to 10 people and they'll all give you a different floral memory that they have.
And it's so amazing. It's so special when you get to kind of connect people more with their memories through having sort of giving up their plot of land, and then you kind of grow something. You're like, oh, that reminds me of my childhood. And I kind of want to talk about this community thing too. So you founded the Black Flower Growers Group, okay?
Yes.
So what inspired you to create this network, and how has it grown since inception?
So I started Black Flower Farmers because I recognize that there are lots of barriers to access that Black farmers face overall. For instance, we know since Reconstruction, 90 million acres of land has been lost by Black families in the United States. That's an incalculable amount. Like, I can't imagine 90 million acres, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, having this group gave us a safe space to be able to talk about everything from whether it's, feeling discrimination by, local federal agents that have to do with governmental agencies, to passive aggressive behavior or microaggressions from other community members, or even, getting our names out there. And the group has continued to grow. We have over 50 members throughout the United States, Canada, UK. The UK, one of our UK members was just on TV with Monty Don last week, and South Africa. And the group continues to grow. And next week, I'm actually speaking at a conference soon with two growers from the group on flower farming.
That's pretty amazing. You talk about connecting people. We talk locally, but this is a more of a global connection about
For sure.
this issue. Is not just here, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
What percentage do you know are Black floral farmers? We know about farmers,
Yeah.
but what about flowers?
So I think flower farmers represent something like 1% of growers in the United States, and Black flower farmers are something like 0.8% or something like that. It's estimated there are maybe about 75 Black flower farmers in the United States. I don't have stats for other countries, but like, that's a room full of people. That's not, a ton of growers, and lots of them are younger people. They are in urban environments, and they're traveling to their farms that are either far away or have similar models where they have urban land that they're trying to work. They're trying to get access to grants, learn about capital, etc. And this group provides a space where we have people who have, everything from 0 years experience to 30 or 40 years of experience, and have had different roles, whether it's, working for the county, being master gardeners, grant writing. They have all this expertise. We have an entomologist in the group. We have a rosarian. We have all these experts in the groups where people can call on and say, hey, I need help with doing this or learning this. Can you talk to me about this? And it's more than likely there's going to be somebody who has had that experience or is going to know someone else who could help out.
It's really connecting.
Yes.
That's the big thing, and that's something that ties in. I think anything that deals with plants is trying to connect people together, and I think it's such an intersection between community, livelihood, and of course a sense of legacy too. Flowers have a sense of legacy in people's families.
Yes.
And this impact, and so. Tell me how all of these stories and all this knowledge, and how do you have time to sit on this committee at Norfolk Botanical Garden? What is your input about the President's Council on Inclusive Diversity? What do you feel like your impact is here at the garden, or what do you think you would be able to contribute to the garden itself to help lead it to more of a garden for all, which it is, but getting that message out and kind of sort of putting your stamp on it?
I think that's the biggest thing. I use any and all platforms I've had to be able to amplify this story, which, we on the committee kind of can think, oh, like everybody knows the story or it's so well known. But just in the past month, I've, told this story to 10 new people. I've told this story for an article. I've told this story now for a Black History Floral project that's going to happen. And I think it's a real big part of it. The Botanical Gardens is quite unique. There's literally no other WPA garden in the country, and that it was, started, by these landscape architects, Black men and women, who then, because of segregation, did not re-enter, or their stories were forgotten, or they felt shamed and like they couldn't share, is really unfortunate, and we want to bring attention to that. Like our friend April Lee says, we're not new to this, we're true to this. There is a legacy and a history of African American hands in the soil, and now we're at the point where the labor is our choice, and some of us are choosing to return to it in spite of family members maybe saying, like, why would you want to go back to that? We left that. But it's a very rich legacy that we have nothing to be ashamed of. We should be proud for all we've done and all our ancestors have done and all we will continue to do.
I think that was, wow, thank you. That was very beautiful. And I think that story, sharing it, we do that here at the garden, and we appreciate anyone who shares a story. And I know I've seen you on NPR, I've seen you in articles, and you're like, hey, I've shared the story. And that sometimes there's not money behind that, but there's rich value that we can't measure. And finding more ways to spread the message. And like I said, there's not shame in the story. There's so much, there's beauty and the work that's been done.
Right. And this garden is for everyone. And I hope by, seeing someone like me who people might not necessarily associate with horticulture, with botanical gardens, talking about not only my work, but the work that's been done here, the literal ground that's been laid, it will make them feel as if they have a home, they have a space, and they can come and be here.
So this is going to be my last question, and it's talking about the future of not only farming or gardening, but where do you see the young generation and their hands in the soil? And what is your kind of sort of hope that you see that's happening that continues this kind of legacy that's been left for them? Do you see them kind of going back to the soil, or do you see kind of sort of there's work to be done to get the youth excited?
I do see it happening. In the Black Flower Farmers Group, we have a fair amount of young women, especially, exploring floriculture and horticulture, and it's exciting to see. There are lots of different organizations and movements that are focused on young farmers and kind of helping them rebuild that return to the land. I'm really excited about it. A friend of mine heads a group that is completely made up of young Black flower farmers and florists. And these kids are out here, doing the work, learning these things. And then locally, we have organizations like Teens with a Purpose that has Purpose Park, who I worked with to, cut flowers for their gala from their garden. I think everyone loves the garden in some way or can take something from it, whether it's the joy of seeing a seed emerge, seeing cool bugs in the garden, growing something that you can eat, something that you can cut and take home to your mom or to your family. There is something for everyone, and I'm really excited to see where things continue to go with younger people, for sure.